Hello, and welcome to another broadcast of In the Circle. I know it's been a while. I have a couple of personal things that I take care of in my life, so I haven't been able to actually get on here and record and give you guys any broadcast or any ministry work. But today we're going to be talking about what we're going to be putting up under the microscope here in the circle, and making our eyes singular and bringing things up under the light of the truth, and examining is the one of the main rules in this movement of what we call being a private citizen. And all we talked about before is correcting your status, setting yourself apart from what they've labeled you at birth. When you're born, you're already born into dual citizenship. One as a state citizen, the geographical location where you were born, and a federal citizen. And so that is dual citizenship. And the correction of your status or your nationality, actually is the putting yourself in the correct standing as for status. And in this whole movement here, you're going to hear about discharge and debt, and it all started here with HJR.192 with the repeal of the Gold Act and things of that nature. So today, just know that all the things we're talking about is for educational, entertainment, and spiritual growth purposes. So as you know, it's the actual act. It's not the whole thing, just some things out of it. And we're going to go to the joint resolution. We're going to start right here at chapter 47, authorizing the Secretary of War. Not this one right here, just letting a Chinese guy, a member of the armed forces. Okay, right here at chapter 48 of HJR.192. To assure uniform value to the coins and currency of the United States, whereas the holding of or dealing in gold after the public interest and are therefore subject to proper regulation and restrictions. And whereas the existing emergency has disclosed that provisions of obligations which purport to give the obligee a right to require payments in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States, or in the amount in money of the United States measured thereof, abstract the power of the Congress to regulate the value of the money of the United States, and are inconsistent with the declared policy of the Congress to maintain at all times the equal power of every dollar coined or issued by the United States in the market and in the payment of debts. So before we go any further, I want you to come back and see a few words. I want you to go and understand the obligee and obligations. Find out who's the obligee and the obligor. Deals with dealing with the content of this subject here, dealing with money. You're going to be somebody that's going to be a creditor, somebody's going to be a debtor, you got an obligee, obligor, things of that nature. Now, I'm starting back down here at the bottom. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled. And the United States of America and Congress assembled is really what we are and should be considered of, not the United States, the corporation, but the United States of America and Congress assembled is the name of this nation. The United States itself is a corporation. You can look it up online and find out that it is also set up and is running and doing business. Okay. That every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency, or in an amount in money of the United States measured thereby, is declared to be against public policy. So they're saying here, like if you look on your deed, you'll see on your deed, I know that's one of the contracts that you'll see that they're going to ask you for payment of money. And they're going to tell you to give it to them and not in gold. And I think they also say cash. Not sure, I'm not looking right back at my mortgage, but you can't pay it in gold. It's got to be lawful money. They're going to say US dollar, currency, etc., etc. Maybe on a more diluted broadcast or something like that. Or, well, I tell you, in our private membership, we go more in depth. I don't think I put it out here in the public, but in our private membership, this is where we go more in depth about those different types of currencies and them being able to ask you to pay you in any specific type. It says it right here. It's against the public policy for them to tell you to pay you in gold, coin, dollar bills, or whatever it may be. It's against the public policy. Okay, so just to reiterate, I'm going to come back up here at the beginning, second line, that every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee a right to require payment. So I can give you some money, I have the right to require payment, but it can't be in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency or in any amount in money of the United States measured thereby is declared to be against public policy. So there it goes. So before we get on in here, to help understand what I'm saying here, is that we have now become a debt-based society where debt is money now. There's no more gold for say. People are not using gold and silver as we once did before the fiat money, the Federal Reserve note, or any of the coins that they have with their stamps on it. As we would say in the circle ministry here, the money of Caesar. The things that are Caesar has his face and his subscription upon it. So those things that is what's replaced the gold and silver, the things that God has already put into the earth to do and have for yourself and to handle within the private capacity with each other. So now that we deal with notes. Now, notes are promissory notes. The dollar bill is a promissory note. It's a promise to pay, and it's all the obligation of the United States. And we'll get on into that. But I just wanted to put it out there so as you can understand that the money system that we have now is a debt base. Everything is bet off is off of debt. You go get credit cards, you go get a loan. Even when you go in the store, or you go to buy a car, you have to sign your name over for the credit to be credited unto you for those things. Even when you use your debit card, you're crediting money out of your debit account, even though it's your own money, it's still being used in that nature. So everything becomes credit. Your signature is the money. Your promissory note, your promise to pay, is the negotiable instrument. Now it becomes negotiable. That's just how the debt is able to be traded and passed down. That's what gives the value, or today's value in debt is off negotiable instruments. It's another debt passed and sold down to someone else. Okay. To get back down here, hope you didn't lose your place. The United States measure declared against the public policy, and no such provision shall be contained in or made with respect to any obligation hereafter inquired. Every obligation, therefore, or hereafter inquired, whether or not any such provision is contained therein or made with respect thereto, shall be discharged upon payment, dollar for dollar, in any coin or currency, which at the time of payment is legal tender for public and private debts. So they're talking about the dollar bill, or most of the time the coins or the currency. What you used to do is take this money. What they started off with this right here was saying that you should be able to take this money, and the promise to pay is going to be laid upon the United States, because this is their money, this is their note, and this is their thing. So everything is prepaid by the United States. This happened after 1933, President Roosevelt, and the Great Recession that they had, and America declared bankruptcy for the third time. And now, to ensure the Americans that they didn't go through this anymore, they brought a new deal. And in the new deal, what most Americans wasn't aware of is that they had to borrow money again to keep the United States of America going, or the corporate United States going. And come out with the birth certificates and the social security numbers, tagging each United States debtor, each United States employee. Birth certificate is the initiation of the contract, and the account number is your social security number, and everything that's attached to that social that you buy will be tied to that birth certificate, to that account, to that trust that they're the trustees over. But as making us the debtors, they promised us by taking the gold standard away, in a sense, that all debts are prepaid. The mortgage is prepaid, and all these other things are prepaid. And by the promissory note and the fiat money and the Federal Reserve notes or banker notes that are passed around and traded and used for currency, it allows the citizens to have their debts discharged, and it's a certain way you go about it. So that's the gist of the matter of everything being prepaid. There's more literature, more depth, and more details to get into it, but just around the sums basis of it. But what we're doing now is showing you that that the government is the owner, or the one that signs the promissory note to pay back, just as well as you sign the promissory note to pay back the mortgage, or the promissory note to purchase the automobile. You're promising to pay back this money that you're going to borrow from the government, and the government gives you fiat money, which they promise later on to make the debt good. But in return, you now become a taxpayer through your birth certificate and your social security card. You now become a tax-paying citizen, and under the tax-paying citizen, you are now responsible for paying the taxes back on that loan. And any kind of loan that you have, you know that the first thing that you're going to pay back is on interest and not principal. So if you are an American citizen and you are paying your duly taxes, then you're paying on a debt that you can't repay. Your children are obligated to pay it. Everyone that goes and get the birth certificate has signed up for this obligor relationship. So this is where that comes in at about everything being prepaid in it. Right here, if you look on the right of on the video, you'll say payment to be made in legal tender. Every obligation thereof are hereafter inquired whether or not any such provision is contained therein or made with respect thereof shall be discharged upon payment, dollar for dollar, in any coin or currency which at the time of payment is legal tender for public and private debts. Any such provision contained in any law authorized obligation to be issued by or under authority of the United States is hereby replied. But the repeal of any such provision shall not invalidate any other provisions or authority contained in such law. As used in this resolution, the term obligation means an obligation, including every obligation of and to the United States, accepting currency. And this is what they're saying, that the United States is responsible. They're obligated. They have the obligation, including every obligation of and to the United States, accepting currency, payable in money of the United States, and they're in Caesar's money, in his coins or his fiat currency, dollar bills, notes, banker's notes. And the term coin of currency means coin of currency of the United States, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banking associations. So those are the definitions for coin and the currency and the obligations, and where the obligation is laid upon, and who the obligation is lied upon or is laid upon for the dollar bill, for the coin of currency, for the Federal Reserve note, and the national banking associations. Right here, section 2. The last sentence of paragraph 1 of subsection B of this section of the act entitled "An Act to Relieve the Existing National Economy Emergency by Increasing Agricultural purchasing power to raise revenue for extraordinary expenses inquired by reason of such emergency. And that revenue that they are talking about is the money they had to borrow to bring themselves out of the recession, or to help set themselves up in the recession. And you know, with any kind of loan that's going to be, you know that most time the loan is based or is in favor of the creditor and not the lender. So when they had to go back to Britain and get the second loan, which no more do we pay our taxes to Britain, do your W-2s go to Britain anymore, but now they go to China because Britain did the same thing and declared bankruptcy and had to go get their self out of trouble, and China bought them out. So taxes goes there. To ensue the big Donald Trump and the war he had with China. So enough of that one on that. Okay, and it says in the act to relieve expenses required by reason of such emergency, to provide emergency relief with respect to agricultural indebtedness, to provide for the ordinary liquidation of joint stock land banks, and for other purposes. Approved May 12, 1933. Is amended to read as following: all coin and currencies of the United States. This is where and how this notation gets onto your mortgage or your land deeds and things of that nature. They're repealed it to say these things. All coins and currency of the United States, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banking associations, therefore are hereinafter coined or issued, shall be legal tender for all debts, public and private, public charges, taxes, duties, and dues, except that gold coins, when below the standard weight and limit of tolerance provided by law for this single piece, shall be legal tender only at violation in proportion to their actual weight. Approved June 5th. To provide for the establishment of the National Employment Center. They're going to talk about the employment. Okay, so right here, the last part here, it tells you that all this money and all these coins and all these other things are good for, all this belongs to the United States. So remember that. And who is the responsible party is the owner. The owner is he that is liable. So all this money is owned by the United States, including Federal Reserve notes. And if you take a look at your note, they'll tell you that. Circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banking associations, therefore are hereinafter coined or issued, shall be legal tender for all debts, public and private. And so now that their money is out here, they have a promise and an obligation to pay for the negotiable instrument that you passed down for. And it should be what it used to be is like Fort Knox used to be the place that holds all the gold, or was told to be the place that held all the gold that backs every dollar for dollar. For the reason for this government legislation, what we were reading in the beginning up here, with the right to regulate it, to make sure that the dollar stays strong, that they have the gold to back up every dollar that's in circulation. But that went haywire. That didn't do no good. Different broadcast, different time, different subject, or maybe more so in the private. But now what you could do is you could take these dollar for dollars, coin for coins, and go trade them in for gold and actually get the actual gold for them. There's a legal amount of gold that will allow every citizen to have, or every individual, or every industry, or every company in a sense to have. So that's gone out of the window. So the debt still lies on there. They said that certain parts that they repeal, the certain parts that don't change or affect that law, it's still the obligation of them to take care of these negotiable instruments and these notes. So this is what's going on in between the private and the public, so as we can better understand what to do in the private and in the public. All right, so I looked up the definition. We're going to show you here of a promissory note. A promissory note, sometimes referred to as a note payable, is a legal instrument in which one party promises in writing to pay a determinate sum of money to the other, either at a fixed or determined future time or on demand of the payee under specific terms and conditions. So we were talking earlier, reading out of the House Joint Resolution 192, about being able to pay on demand, and that all Federal Reserve notes and money is to be payable, or the obligation is to be paid upon demand. So the note in itself will have the signature of the person who promising to pay upon it. So real quick, I'm going to look up something else and show you. Right here you see at WikiLeaks, it says a Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve notes, also United States banknotes, are the currency issued banknotes of the United States dollar. The United States Bureau's engravings has this stuff on it. So we'll take a look in here real quick, see if we find a picture as well. The United States Bureau of Engraving and Printing produces the notes under the authority of the Federal Reserve Acts of 1913 and issues them to the Federal Reserve banks at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. The reserve banks can circulate the notes to their member banks, at which point they become liabilities of the reserve banks and obligations of the United States. These Federal Reserve notes are the obligations of the United States. The Federal Reserve notes are legal tender, with the words, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private," printed on each note. The notes are backed by financial assets the Federal Reserve Bank's pledges as collateral, which are mainly Treasury securities and mortgage agency securities that they purchase on the open market by fiat payment. So they tell you that the Federal Reserve notes are legal tender, with the words, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private," printed on each note. The notes are backed not by the gold no more, but by the financial assets that the Federal Reserve Bank pledges as collateral, which are mainly Treasury securities and mortgage agency securities. So your mortgage and all your homes, when we're talking about 1933, it was pledged as the repayment for the money that was borrowed in 1933 when they made the Federal Reserve note all legal tender. It was no longer backed by the gold in the so-called bank. So in a sense, you're hearing this movement too, that they stole all the gold from the people and gave them this fake ass money, gave them this fake currency, this fiat. Fiat meaning, let's find out. It says fiat payment. I'm trying to see whether they let it pull us back up and tell us more about it. Fiat isn't real. It is a fictitious. It's a entity. It's like your straw man. It's like the entity they created with your birth certificate. They created a individual, an entity, a fiat being that has no real energy. But it tells you on here that the Federal Reserve note, the United States of America, and you're going to see the descriptions and the names, which isn't in great detail down here, of the people working for the United States that are obligated to pay back anything that's been paid with this money. So this is what they talk about, everything being prepaid. All the mortgages and all the homes and all the land is why they all have to be recorded and belongs to the government, and why you pay taxes on your lands and why you pay taxes on your mortgage. These mortgages and all these other things are held by security by these notes. So the money that's in circulation now is backed by the mortgages. And we also teach in our private group how to recoup your mortgage, how to recoup your mortgage payment, how to take your private property, which is yours and doesn't belong to them, out of the system in a sense, and put it into your private access, or put into your trust, whereas it can't be bothered, it can't be touched, it can't be taxed. There's a certain way of structure and certain trust and how you set them up. Everyone talks in this movement too about just because it goes in a trust that it becomes tax exempt. That is not so. That is not so. But so with everything we've been talking about here, just trying to show you a little bit about the private and the public and how they've been intertwined in a sense, and how you can separate yourself and get away from these things, and live a private life and handle yourself. Also, whenever you go into public, You need to know the rules of the game and what's going on in the public, so whenever you do step into the public, you know how to handle yourself or to present yourself, or how you are presented, and how to protect yourself from the public and have your private assets protected. So here we do teach in our private membership about how to recoup your mortgage and how to recoup your things, and we learn more about negotiable instruments and promissory notes and bonds and things of that nature, and how to secure yourself in your private domain. So contacting us at blakeney@dricoj@gmail.com, BLAKENEYEDRICOJ@gmail.com. And this is where, until I can get the website up and where you can go directly to the website and join our private membership for small donations, you can reach out now and see how you go about joining our membership and seeing all the benefits that we do offer for your benefit. So on today's part about HJR.192 and everything being prepaid, you're going to hear a lot about discharging your debt. We're going to show you how to discharge it the proper way, where it's available for everybody. Since it's already been prepaid, then you get to discharge it. So really don't like to use the word discharge. I really say recoup, so you can get back what's yours. Discharge, you really set things off for a later date. You can set it off for the government to pay it at a later time, but it doesn't go away. So everybody want to discharge stuff, want to discharge, but you're only still living the poor mentality, the poor thinking. You want to you don't want to pay the whole $500 in rent. You want to pay $250 and then pay the other $250 later, but you still got another $500 coming. But so in a sense, what I'm saying is you don't really get to set off or discharge. It's what they want to call, or what you'll hear a lot about in this movement. But anyway, we treat you the proper way, and we will teach and learn about the discharge and how to go about it in a sense, in the way that they talk about it. Everything that we deal with, you can find through their publications, and shows you how to discharge. And that's mostly the easiest way is through bankruptcy. But that's something I don't advise. I'd rather do the recoupment, but we will teach if that's what you desire to do. So, thank you for coming out and joining In the Circle Ministries today in our civil classes. I hope this has been uplifting to you spiritually. And somewhat hope it entertained you, so as you can go out and get curious about it and do your own research. And if it lands you back here, more than gladly to join the ministry where we can help you achieve the goals that you need to achieve in a private life, as far as status correction, or actually having your nationality stated, because it's never been stated properly. So you're going to correct that. We have asset protection, show you how to set up your life and to be impenetrable from outside forces. And also, in the process of doing all this right here, we're going to teach you generational wealth and how to accumulate it and attain it. Stay tuned for more videos like the same. Any questions you have, you can leave in the comments. Like I said before, contact us through email. And for now, that'll be it for now. Well, thank you. May you have love, peace, and prosperity to run through your life rampantly. And you guys have a great day.